The Screaming Girl. My name's Eleanor, and before I worked in hospice care, I spent a short time as a psychiatric nurse in Savannah, Georgia. The hospital I worked at was old, long halls, peeling paint, and doors that echoed when they closed. Most of our patients were quiet, lost in their own minds. But one girl, she wasn't like the others. Her name was Isabel, 17, thin, pale, and always whispering to herself. Her parents brought her in after what they called episodes. They said she'd speak in voices that weren't hers, and objects in her room would move when she grew angry. The doctors called it delusion. I wanted to believe that too. The first night she arrived, she stood facing the corner of her room, refusing to turn around. I asked what she was looking at. She said, "They're standing right here." When I shined my flashlight, there was nothing. But I swear I heard faint breathing, like something was mimicking her rhythm. If you're enjoying this real nightmare, like and subscribe for more. After midnight, the alarms started to glitch, doors unlocking on their own for a few seconds. Isabel's voice came through the intercom, only she wasn't anywhere near a microphone. The playback from that night still makes me sick. It wasn't one voice. It was several. Children, men, women, all layered together, screaming, crying, and moaning. Like how hell might sound. One of the hospital's chaplains came to pray over her room. When he walked in, she smiled, wide and slow, and said his name before he'd introduced himself. Her voice changed. It dropped to a growl that shook the windows. "You can't help her," it said. The air grew so cold, our breath fogged. The chaplain began to pray, and Isabel screamed, a sound so violent the lights shattered above her bed. When it stopped, she was lying motionless, staring at the ceiling. On her arms were scratches spelling words backward. No one could translate them. A week later, she was gone. No transfer papers. No record. Her bed was stripped, her file erased from the system. When I asked about it, the head nurse told me to let it go, said it was handled. Months later, the ward closed after a mysterious fire. I drove past the ruins once. Just concrete and vines now. Locals say if you go there at 3 a.m. you can still hear her screams. I would never take a chance on finding out if it's true. The Lady of the Lake. My name's Marcus, and this happened in Georgia in the summer of 2016. My cousin Terence and I used to fish at Lake Lanier every weekend. Everyone around here knows the stories, the wrecks, the drownings, the Lady of the Lake. We didn't believe in any of that. We just liked the quiet. One night, we stayed later than usual. The air was still, the water flat as glass. You could hear boats in the distance, but nothing near us. I remember Terence saying, "Feels like the lake's holding its breath." Around 1 a.m., fog rolled in. Out on the water, we saw a light, a pale blue shimmer, like a lantern swinging side to side. We figured it was a boat until it drifted under the surface and kept moving. Terence leaned over the dock, trying to see better. Then he froze. I asked what he saw, but he didn't answer. He just said, "She's looking up." I leaned over beside him and saw it too. A woman's face beneath the water, clear as day. Eyes open, hair floating around her like black seaweed. She wasn't drowning. She was waiting. Her mouth opened, and bubbles rose to the surface, spelling out shapes, almost words. Then her hand reached up and brushed the edge of the dock. I grabbed Terence and pulled him back. The next second, the light went out, everything black. We ran for the truck. When we got there, the passenger door was open. Inside, the seat was soaked, dripping lake water. The smell wasn't just water, it was like old perfume and lake water. Terence wouldn't talk the whole ride home. The next morning, he called and said his shoes were still wet, even though he'd never stepped in the lake. A few days later, I read an article about a car pulled from Lanier, a 1950s Chevy with a woman's body inside. Locals said she'd been missing since 1958. They called her the Lady of the Lake. I stopped fishing there after that. Sometimes I still drive by at night. The fog always settles thickest over the same spot near the docks. And if you're brave enough to go to the dock, you might see her, watching, beneath the water, just before the air goes cold. I think she's just waiting for someone to look back. It followed me home. My name's Rachel, and this happened in Charleston, South Carolina, about 5 years ago. My best friend Corey loved exploring old buildings. He'd heard about an abandoned church on the edge of town, said it had been empty since the 1960s. I went with him one humid afternoon in July. The front doors were chained, but a side window was open. The moment I climbed inside, the air changed, thick and still, like the place had been holding its breath for decades. The pews were rotted, hymn books torn to dust. But the altar was untouched. Someone had left candles there, burned almost to the base, and a single wooden cross sitting upside down in melted wax. Corey joked that it looked like somebody had been performing rituals. I told him to stop. We walked deeper inside. The sunlight barely reached the pulpit. When I turned to take a picture, my phone screen glitched. The image stretched like static, and in that distortion, I saw something behind me. A figure, tall, thin, standing in the aisle. I spun around. Nothing. But Corey said he felt something brush past him. Cold air in a place that was 90 degrees. We left after that. That night, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I heard whispering, not in my room, but inside my head. It said my name over and over. The next morning, Corey texted me, "Do you still feel off? My nose won't stop bleeding." The whispering grew worse. When I looked in the mirror, I noticed bruises forming around my neck like fingerprints. I went to church with my aunt that Sunday, hoping prayer would help. The second the pastor started reading, my chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. I heard myself whisper, "Stop," except I hadn't opened my mouth. I blacked out. My aunt told me later that when the pastor started to pray for me, I screamed in a voice that wasn't mine, deep, echoing, before collapsing. When I woke up, there were scratches down my arms that hadn't been there before. I tried to get in touch with Corey, but he stopped answering my messages. His sister said he'd checked into a clinic after claiming he couldn't stand the voices anymore. I still pray every night, and thank God I don't hear the voices anymore. I pray for Corey too. I wish we'd never set foot in that old church. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more real nightmares.